everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as Hawaii men's volleyball taking down Long Beach State not once, but twice. What? How did those Bows pull off 2 wins against the Beach? And are they now the class of the Big West? Also, how about the Ohio State beating Loyola and Lewis last week in Columbus? Can the Buckeyes do damage in the MESA? Also, how about NJIT pulling off a reverse sweep against Princeton? For the first time since 2016, the Highlanders sweep the regular season series against the Tigers. Also, we had all sorts of other volleyball happening in the MLB as we had the Omaha Supernovas continuing their winning ways. Are they back? Or is this just a little bit of a slight mirage just because the Indy Ignite and the Dallas Colts just continue to roll past everything? Also, how about we host for a first picking Loyola last Friday? Are the Mustangs really going to back-to-back this year? We'll find out. Hand me a volleyball. Set today, because I'm about to review up the volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, Tuesday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way in episode 343 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube and on X. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, and TikTok. Well, actually just X and TikTok. And also make sure to subscribe on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers and beyond. And with your help, we can definitely make it happen. So please do subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone that is a sports fan to subscribe to iSports Radio. Also, make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, and so much more. For the last 11 years, going on 12, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get into those sponsors, and I will see you all a little later.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors and definitely check out our website as well. Also, the way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE. You could also follow me personally on X as well, at Teran Rodriguez 1. And you could also follow Setpoint on TikTok as well, at @set_point_IE. Also, you can follow Setpoint on Instagram too, at @set_point_IESR. That's the main way you could follow Setpoint. And that's probably where you're going to be seeing a lot of my content. That's where all my content has been going for the most part. So without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So week 12 was a little bit of a quiet week in terms of the NCAA men's volleyball season. But what wasn't quiet was the big time match and series of the week being number three Hawaii taking on number 2 Long Beach State. So this was definitely a barn burner of a matchup. So the Friday match, I did miss the first set, even though it went slightly overtime, but it was still a darn good match. And in the end, Hawaii wound up winning that match in 5. It was their first win in Long Beach since 2017, a little more than, or 2015, I'm sorry, 2015. So a little more than 11 years ago. So either way, Hawaii was long overdue for a win against Long Beach State on the road, and they were able to pull off the win. It was a grueling match overall. There was a lot of cramping just because in California, it was a pretty hot day. So the fact that there was a lot of teams like cramping or a lot of players like cramping, it really showed that it was pretty hot and the court was just intense. So overall, it wasn't really the flashiest night in terms of offense for Hawaii, as they only had 47 kills, but that was enough because Christian Tetrisky had led the way with 13 kills, and he came up big in the 5th set. He was hitting 0, according to Charlie Wade, his head coach, but then he really turned it on in that 5th set, and he also had a service ace, which was also big. So Christian Tetrisky was definitely a hero in that Hawaii match. Also got to recognize Louis Sakanoko, who had 8 kills, but he only played in 3 sets just because, unfortunately, he did suffer a little bit of a leg injury. So, yeah, it was unfortunate that Louis couldn't finish the match. But you know, that's what happens sometimes. Like in a grueling match like that, attrition really does matter. So, Teran Rosenthal obviously was Teran Rosenthal. He actually had 7 kills on 8 swings. So for a setter, he really did do his damage. And Adrian Rohr was solid with 7 kills. Like I said, it wasn't the most offensive orientated match on Hawaii's part. They hit 288, but again, they only had 47 kills compared to Long Beach State 64. As the Beach was led by Wojciech Gajek, who had 22 kills, while Skylar Varga added 15 kills. Alex Kondev also had 11 kills. They also got 7 kills from Jackson Christ. As a team, Long Beach State hit 259, but they missed 26 service errors, and they also had 28 hitting errors. So, yeah, Long Beach State definitely had their chances of winning that match, but unfortunately, it just slipped through their fingers. Jake Pizzanti, I will say, he had his best match as a starter for Long Beach State. He had 11 digs and he had 53 assists. So he also had 4 kills too. So he was definitely solid. And I can go as far as to say that was his best match of the season. Unfortunately for the Beach, they wound up losing to Hawaii. And then on night 2, I was expecting a little bit more of a barn burner matchup, but Hawaii had other plans as Hawaii was able to sweep Long Beach State. So in this matchup, Hawaii's Louis Sakanoko was actually a game time decision. So he actually he didn't play the rest of the first match. So there was speculation that he was either going to be a game time decision or he was going to be questionable going into that match. And Louis, before the match, he did tell me we'll see what happens. And then Louis eventually did play. That actually wound up being big for Hawaii as Louis Sakanoko actually led the Bows with 15 kills while Christian Tetrisky had 11 kills. I'll go as far as to say that this series might have actually this series and the Outrigger Invitational also revived Christian Tetrisky. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I think Christian Tetrisky, everyone was speculating why he wasn't performing well. And Charlie Wade went to his son Kainoa Wade, and Kainoa actually performed really well despite Christian's absence. And you also got to remember that Christian Tetrisky was battling a back injury. So now that Christian is healthy, he is now doing some damage for Hawaii, and he's doing great things. So a great win for Hawaii. And the sweep is special because, number one, that's the 4th straight time Hawaii's beaten Long Beach State, which I think is pretty impressive. 2, it's actually the first time since 2015 that Hawaii swept the road series at Long Beach State, which was also impressive. And then 3rd is that Hawaii became the first team since UCLA did it back on March 28th, 2016 to sweep Long Beach State at Long Beach State, which I thought was pretty impressive. So, yeah, it was a pretty darn impressive win for Hawaii. Pretty darn impressive week overall for Hawaii. Now, for Long Beach State, they were led by Wojciech Gajek, who had 16 kills. They also got 7 kills from Skylar Varga, 6 kills from Alex Kondev. Now, the thing about Long Beach State is that they only hit 218, and look, it just didn't feel like they were their normal Long Beach State selves. Now, that's a testament of Hawaii being battle-tested, but I think Long Beach State's schedule kind of didn't really do them any wonders. It didn't really do them too many favors because during their win streak, I think they won like 5 in a row. They only had beaten one ranked opponent, and that was Penn State. But Penn State is not as good as they were in the past. No offense to the Nittany Lions, of course. So overall, for Long Beach State, it's back to the drawing board for them, and this basically carves out Hawaii to possibly be the favorite to win this whole thing. Because I think Teran Rosenthal said it best. When they saw that graphic that Hawaii was picked to finish 2nd in the Big West, they took it personally. I, on the other hand, thought that Hawaii was going to be the favorite to win the Big West. I said before the first day of the NCAA men's volleyball season that Hawaii was going to win the Big West Conference in terms of the regular season, of course. Now, there's still the tournament that gives them the automatic qualifier, but that's not for another few weeks or so. So I think for Hawaii, they still have a ways to go because the Big West is going to be a gauntlet. going to be ranked on ranked matches practically every week. There's not going to be a down week in the Big West Conference. So overall for the Bows, this is still a step in the right direction, and I think they might have squashed any doubt that might have come their way, just because obviously they got swept on their home floor against UCLA, and then they obviously had a quiet week. Or I mean, they didn't have like a quiet game. They had a solid game against Lewis. Not the best, but not the greatest. So I think for Hawaii, this is definitely going to be a big step in the right direction. And yes, Freddie B asked, Big West tournament being played at the Bren? Correct. The Bren Event Center at UC Irvine. And then Larry says, breaking that 11-match losing streak at the Pyramid officially puts the Big West on notice. The Bows aren't just contenders. They might be the favorites. Well, you got UCLA still, which it's UCLA, and then it's kind of a far drop-off. But I think Hawaii definitely is now number 2, in my opinion. So I definitely think you're on to something there. I think Hawaii is definitely number 2. It's all going to depend on attrition. It's all going to depend on who plays their best ball when it comes to the postseason, and so on and so forth. And Larry adds something interesting. He says, I wish CBU or California Baptist men's volleyball was still around, but I'm excited for the women's volleyball in the Big West next season. I am too. So to end on Long Beach State, Hawaii, I think this was a first and foremost, great job to the Hawaii fans for an amazing turnout. They showed up and showed out. I mean, there are Hawaii fans in California just because Teran Rosenthal is he's originally from Austin, Texas. Then his family moved to Manhattan Beach, spent 1 year at Miracosta High School, and then forewent his senior year to eventually play at Hawaii, and wound up winning the starting spot after a transfer setter from Lewis unfortunately got injured in warmups, and now the rest is history when it comes to Teran Rosenthal. So there you have it right there. That is Hawaii, Long Beach State, and that was pretty much the icebreaker of the week. I had to start off with that. So now to move on to the other matches that were also notable from the week. So we have to start with this matchup. Number 18, Ohio State hosting number 7, Loyola. So here's the thing about Ohio State. They came into the week in search of staying in the win column. They did snap their losing streak against Purdue Fort Wayne. However, they faced a Loyola Chicago team that had determination of staying toward the top of the MIVA conference. But the Buckeyes did what Stanford did to BYU, be the number 18 ranked team to take down number 7 Loyola in 4, which I thought was very impressive. I mean, Ohio State hasn't had too many big-time wins, but this might have been the biggest, as Shane Wetzel led the way with 15 kills. You also had Stanislaw Chichinski adding 13 kills. Daniel Hurley added 12 kills. As a team, the Buckeyes hit 444, which I thought was really good. For the Ramblers, they hit only 223. They were led by Tyler Howard, who had 13 kills. Josh Schellinger had 10 kills. Daniel Fabakovic did not have this best night. He had 7 kills. So overall for the Ramblers, this is kind of an ill-advised loss, just because with how crazy the MIVA is, you need all the wins that you can get. And you're about to see that this loss is about to set the Ramblers backward a little bit. But the Buckeyes, they earned this win big time, as Shane Wetzel was spectacular. But it wasn't just him. It was all the pin hitters. So very, very, very good win for the Buckeyes. And Larry B just called Shane Wetzel the Pretzel Man, which the Pretzel Man. Shane Wetzel the Pretzel Man. And Larry also says the Buckeyes have, yeah, they do. I mean, it's not like their squad back in 2024. It's an okay team. I mean, they definitely have a good team. It's just not contendable, if that's really a word, with the likes of UCLA, Long Beach, Hawaii, USC, UCI, the list goes on and on. So you had that matchup right there, and that was a good win for the Buckeyes. Let's just keep it a buck. The Buckeyes really earned that win big time. Then there are some other notable matches. We had Belmont Abbey sweeping Mount Olive, which was a solid win for the Crusaders. That was kind of a de facto matchup in terms of the Conference Carolinas, just because it wasn't really, it's not ranked on ranked, obviously. We don't really see a lot of Conference Carolinas teams get ranked, but that was for first place in the conference. So the fact that Belmont Abbey wound up winning that match was huge on their behalf. So you had that matchup right there. You also had FDU, or Fairleigh Dickinson, beating LIU twice this past weekend. Also on Saturday, you had number 20 NJIT outlasting Princeton on the road in 5. Matter of fact, the Highlanders actually reverse swept the Tigers, which actually marked the first time NJIT won the regular season series, or swept the regular season series against the Tigers, since 2016, which I guess that makes the whole 2016 trend a whole lot valid, but I digress. Victor Nowak was spectacular for NJIT. He had 28 kills. He actually had over half of the kills NJIT had as a team, which I thought was very impressive. And then the next kill leader after Nowak was Parker Moorhead, who had 6 kills. As a team, NJIT hit 347, which I thought was pretty good. And they threw a block party. They had 11.5 blocks as a team, which was nice. Princeton had 10 blocks, which wasn't bad. And they also had 9 service aces. They had 288, which wasn't terrible. Their kill leader was Andrew Werner, who had 19 kills. Owen Mellon had 12 kills. So overall for Princeton, this has just been one ugly season for them. But thankfully, they still have the EIVA tournament. But for NJIT, that one was so crucial because they could not afford to go into the Penn State match, or the Penn State series, might I add, on a loss, just because that would put them 2 games behind Penn State in terms of the EIVA standings. So now they still have to win both matches this week against Penn State, but I think for NJIT, they've had a solid season. Remember, they started off 0-5, then they reeled off, I think, 10 in a row, and then now they've won, I think, 3 or 4 in a row. So honestly, NJIT's had themselves a quiet, good season, and I think it's going to start to pay off. And then Lindenwood swept Queens the first night, and then needed 5 to take down Queens the second night. It shows that Queens is a solid team. Now, their record clearly doesn't show them as the most eye-popping team, but I will say the MIVA is just ridiculous this year. Heck, even Northern Kentucky needed almost beat Lewis in 5, which I thought was crazy if you ask me. So a great win for Lindenwood, as that keeps them toward the top of the MIVA standings. Then you had number 9 Ball State sweeping number 19 Purdue Fort Wayne. Not surprising there. You had BYU taking down Concordia Irvine twice, which I thought was a solid win. It was kind of a reunion of former GCU players, obviously, because GCU cut their program, and some of the GCU players went to the likes of Concordia Irvine and also BYU. So there you have it. And then also in the NEC, or Northeast Conference, you had St. Francis picking up 2 wins against Damon, which I thought was really good if you ask me. Those are 2 massive wins right there, because the NEC is an automatic qualifier. So you had that right there. You also had Mount Olive bouncing back from their loss against Belmont Abbey, as they took down North Greenville in 4. That was a solid win for the Trojans. And then you also had Belmont Abbey taking down Barton in 5. Now, something I didn't know is that I did not know Belmont Abbey lost to Barton in the first meeting, but now they were able to take them down the second go around, which I thought was a very, very crucial win right there. That was a clutch win right there for Belmont Abbey. If they don't win that, then the Conference Carolinas top spot can go either way. But now Belmont Abbey has quite a bit of separation between them and Mount Olive. Basically, Belmont Abbey controls their own destiny. Speaking of Trojans, USC also was in action. They took down Jessup in straight sets on both nights, Friday and Saturday. I mean, let's be honest, and this is no offense to Jessup. USC is not going to really have too much of a difficult time, because they have a loaded roster, and and Jessup is in its first year, not only as an NCAA Division 1-2 team, but they're also in their first year in the MPSF, and that basically is shark infested. So the Trojans of USC basically swept them. USC is not going to get a challenge until not until next week when they host Stanford. And then I think after that they play BYU. And then after that they play Pepperdine, which that's going to be some de facto matchups right there. And then Larry says, yeah, I don't think they're making the tournament. Yeah, well, and he's referring to Ohio State. Well, if the MIVA, going back to the MIVA, if the MIVA is as crazy as it has been this season, I think Ohio State definitely has a legit chance, but you got a lot of good teams like Ball State, Loyola, Lindenwood, McKendree, Purdue Fort Wayne, Lewis. Like, you're going to need to play your best ball on a nightly basis. So I wouldn't rule out Ohio State making the tournament. They're not going to make it as an at-large just because most of the at-larges are probably going to be from the Big West and MPSF. But if they do make the tournament, they're going to have to make it as the automatic qualifier from the MIVA. So we'll have to wait and see come conference tournament time. So that's basically going to do it for all the notable matchups from last week. So now let's go to the AVCA poll. Yeah, it was a quiet week. We only had 5 ranked-on-ranked matches, which is not going to be the same for this week. So Hawaii is now the new number 2 team after they jumped Long Beach State. UC Irvine is still number 5. USC is number 4, which I think definitely sounds right. Pepperdine is 6. Ball State jumped up to 7, which I thought was pretty cool. Santa Barbara is 8. Number 9 is BYU, deservedly so. 10 is Loyola, which I wouldn't say deservedly so, but you lost to the number 18 team. You don't deserve to be number 7, in my opinion. So overall, it was not too much changed. I mean, Ohio State had the biggest jump of the week. They went up 3 spots to number 15. McKendree, I think McKendree didn't move a whole lot. McKendree didn't move a lot. Lindenwood stayed put. UC San Diego stayed put. Stanford stayed put. Lewis moved down the spot. Penn State stayed put. CSUN moved down a spot. NJIT moved up a spot, and Purdue Fort Wayne moved down a spot. So no one dropped out, but that's pretty much your top 20. So now let's move on to the off the block media poll. So since this is Tuesday, the off the block media poll got released today. So the off the block media poll is as follows: still UCLA number 1, Hawaii number 2, Long Beach State 3, USC 4, UC Irvine 5, Pepperdine 6, Ball State 7, Lindenwood 8, BYU 9, and UC Santa Barbara 10. So in case you're wondering what the off the block media poll is, it's basically media members such as myself and a bunch of other people voting for the top 10 of the off the block media poll, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. I wish that 900 square feet would do this, in my honest opinion, but I digress. So here's the thing. So I did turn in a ballot, but I unfortunately got my ballot in late. The deadline is supposed to be 7 p.m. Pacific time. And in case you're wondering why there was no show last night, it's because I had something I needed to take care of in terms of job wise. So sadly, I could not, which started at 5:30. So it actually intertwined, and I didn't want to move the show or make the show the focal point. So overall, I think that's why I didn't have a show yesterday, and that's why we're having a show today. It is what it is, and I got to go where the money goes, as wise someone once told me. But my off the block poll is basically the same as the off the block media poll, or the media top 10, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. So my ballot is actually the same. I'm not sure if my votes actually were counted, just because obviously the deadline was 7 p.m. Pacific time. I did this pretty late. I was like, uh-oh. And it was like 10 p.m. when I did it. So I don't think my votes were counted, but if it was, then it's now the same as the off the block top 10, which I think is pretty cool. So there you have it right there. And that'll do it for the off the block media poll. So let's jump in. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right, so yeah, that's it. So now let's jump on into the Week 13 preview of the NCAA men's volleyball season. So last week we had a busy week. Last week we had a quiet week, but it was still kind of a loud week with Long Beach State, Hawaii. This week we have 17 ranked on ranked matches, which I think is pretty cool. So the week got kicked off yesterday with North Greenville taking down Truett McConnell in 4. And then Tuesday, we have these matches. We had Lincoln Memorial sweeping King of Tennessee, Catawba sweeping Barton, Tusculum sweeping Newberry. And then a little later on today, we have Cal Lutheran taking on UC Santa Barbara at UCSB. And then jumping to Wednesday. Now, here's where the ranked on ranked matches start. We have this little gem of a matchup. So we have number 15 Ohio State playing number 17 Penn State, but this isn't going to be played at Rec Hall. Oh, no. It's actually going to be played at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse at the University of Pittsburgh, which I think is a really cool venue to have that in. And thankfully, it's staying at Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. It's a real great venue, if you ask me. I've never been to Fitzgerald Fieldhouse, but I've seen a good chunk of University of Pitt matches in women's volleyball. It's a real great venue. And whoever had the idea of having those matches at Pitt is a genius. So this is the first and only meeting between the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions. And this is a busy week for Penn State because they've got this matchup and then they've got a big 2-match series in the EIVA. But as for this matchup, the Nittany Lions had a bye last week. They had the week off. So it was actually good for them to disconnect and for them to not think about volleyball. That being said, Ohio State has now won 3 straight matches. They've won 3 straight matches. They've taken down a bunch of ranked opponents, being Purdue, Fort Wayne, Loyola, and Lewis. And this could be a real good momentum booster for the Buckeyes, considering Penn State is obviously their rival. I quote this as the Big Ten matchup. I know they're not classified as Big Ten teams, but honestly, they should still be a Big Ten. So I would really like to see an actual Big Ten conference. And who knows, maybe I'd like to see other Big Ten schools expand in terms of men's volleyball, like maybe Nebraska or Wisconsin. So that's just my opinion. But but for me, before I continue on, I would really like to see an actual Big Ten men's volleyball conference so that we have a Big Ten and actually have these matches on Big Ten Network and not on Big Ten Plus. So that's kind of my opinion. I still view this as the Big Ten matchup, and nobody can tell me otherwise. And that's all I got to say about that. Anyway, so that's that for that little Wednesday matchup. There are some other, nothing too special. So, I mean, there's Emmanuel and Belmont Abbey, but that's kind of the only thing that's got going there other than Penn State, Ohio State. So Thursday, we have 3 ranked on ranked MIVA matches. We've got number 20 Purdue Fort Wayne at number 12 McKendree, which is a sneaky good matchup. I mean, both teams are looking for momentum, and the Mastodons are looking for another ranked win. You've got the Battle of Illinois with number 10 Loyola at number 16 Lewis. Now, hopefully for the sake of both teams, this matchup will be a lot better than the first matchup. That one was just a drubbing from Loyola. But at the same time, Lewis, I think that was the first week that Lewis did not have Osan Oz, who has been out for a hot minute. He's been out since the Pepperdine match, which is just really tough. And then you also have this to me is the match of the week. Number 7 Ball State at number 11 Lindenwood. It's the Slurpee series. Get it? Because it's 7-11. I'll see myself out. But anyway, Ball State at Lindenwood. That is for first place in the MIVA. Whoever wins that, if Ball State wins, then they have 2 legs up on Lindenwood in terms of the standings. If Lindenwood wins, then they are tied with Ball State, and they'll have split the regular season series, which I think would be pretty cool if you ask me. So this is really going to test Lindenwood on where they're at. I think Lindenwood definitely has a good shot at beating Ball State, but the Cardinals just have a lot of good arms. They've got Ryan Lewis. They've also got Patrick Rogers, and so on and so forth. So I think this matchup is going to be a barn burner of a match. And then you got Queens in Northern Kentucky, which I don't want to sound mean about this, but that's kind of the battle of the bottom, which it does me no good to say that, but it's like both those teams are kind of actually I shouldn't say that. Both those teams are kind of fighting for that last playoffs, for the last tournament spot in the MIVA tournament. Because if Northern Kentucky beats Queens twice, then Northern Kentucky would have the leg up on Queens in terms of head-to-head and being a game ahead of Queens. But that's pretty much all of the MIVA action happening on Friday. So now we jump to Friday, or MIVA action happening on Thursday. So now jumping to Friday, let's start with this matchup. We have number 19 NJIT at number 17 Penn State. The two teams also face each other on Saturday. All right, this is for first place in the EIVA. Whoever wins if Penn State wins one match, then that's pretty much the de facto tiebreaker right there. But if NJIT wins both matches, then they have a match ahead of. They have the tiebreaker ahead of Penn State, and they also have a match ahead of the Nittany Lions as well. But this is really going to test NJIT. I mean, other than the loss to George Mason, NJIT has been solid in terms of EIVA play. Now, this could be where the George Mason loss would bite them in the butt. But for NJIT, they could rewrite those wrongs if they take down Penn State. If they don't, then they're probably going to be second in the EIVA regular season standings. So yeah, that matchup right there. You also have Fort Valley State at Central State, which I think can kind of be a sneaky good matchup. It's either them or Emmanuel. That's the second best team in the SIAC, but I digress. Okay, now let's jump to the MPSF. Let's go to number 1 UCLA at number 14 Stanford. So UCLA had a bye week last week. They had the week off. I think they were on spring break, but UCLA is back in action as they head down to Northern California to take on number 14 Stanford. The two teams also face each other on Saturday. All right, so this is an interesting matchup. So the Bruins have won. They're obviously still undefeated, and they're the heavy favorite to win the whole thing. That said, Stanford has been playing some good ball as of late. You got to remember, they just took down BYU on its home floor twice. Well, in terms of like Maples Pavilion. But Stanford has really got it going on as of late. If I were UCLA, I would approach this series cautiously. I think the Bruins can definitely win this series, but you never can count out Stanford. They've got a bunch of good, talented players like Moses Wagner, Teo Snui, and so on and so forth. So I think UCLA Stanford is going to be a sneaky good series. But I think for Stanford, they're playing with house money here. And UCLA, obviously, they still haven't lost a match. But I think for them, this is kind of going to be a sneaky good test right here. And then staying in the MPSF, we have arguably the series of the week. Number 6, Pepperdine heads down to Provo to take on number 9, BYU. And the two teams will also face each other on Saturday. So this is another really good series right here. So Pepperdine is still atop of the MPSF standings with the likes of UCLA, but they have to go on the road to take on a solid BYU team. Look, BYU isn't – I know they obviously got back into the win column with those wins over Concordia Irvine, but let's be honest. Nothing against Concordia Irvine, but winning at BYU was going to be a challenge. So BYU, on the other hand, look, this is kind of an interesting series right here. BYU isn't mathematically out of the MPSF championship, or in terms of like winning the regular season championship in the MPSF, but a win over Pepperdine would be big time for them. I'm still not high on BYU by any means. I think the Cougars aren't on the level of like Long Beach, Hawaii, UCLA, UCI, USC, but this matchup is kind of a little bit of a test to see if they can actually be on that level of those teams that I just mentioned. But can they? I'm not sure. All right, jumping to the Big West, we have number 18 CSUN at number 3 Long Beach State. The two teams also face each other on Saturday in Northridge. All right, someone here has to get their first Big West Conference win. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. For Long Beach State, if there's ever a match they need to bounce back and get back on the winning ways, it's this one. They gotta win this one. I can't imagine them losing to CSUN at the Pyramid. That would just be an abomination right there. Meanwhile, CSUN, look, I get it. They're without Stilian Deli Bolsov for the entire season, and they've been without Stilian Deli Bolsov for the entire season. That said, they're the team that can play spoiler. So if I'm Long Beach State, I would not underestimate CSUN by any means. I don't think they're going to be underestimating anybody by any means after that Hawaii series. So yeah, that's CSUN, Long Beach State in a nutshell. Staying in the Big West, we have this interesting matchup. We have number 13 UC San Diego at number 5 UC Irvine. The two teams also face each other on Saturday in La Jolla. All right, this is another fascinating series. This is kind of the middle of the road series. UCI kind of can't afford any more Big West Conference losses if they want to have any shot of finishing in the top 2 in the Big West. Because if you finish in the top 2 in the Big West, you get a bye up into the semifinals of the Big West Conference tournament. Meanwhile, for UC San Diego, they're kind of in a situation where they kind of have to win this. I mean, they now can't afford any more losses if they want to have any hope of finishing in the top 2 in the Big West Conference and getting a bye to the semifinals of the conference tournament. But that being said, this is going to be a good matchup. I think this is going to be a real good matchup. I think Brad Rostratter is going to have UC San Diego ready for this matchup. That being said, UC Irvine is still UC Irvine. I think UC Irvine is going to still do some damage, and I think UC Irvine should at least get 1 out of 2. They're a younger squad this year, but to me, I think UC Irvine, their 3 losses have been in 5 sets. 1 to UCSB, 1 to USC, and then 1 to UCLA. So there you have it right there. And then to close off the Friday matches and the Big West Conference matches, you have arguably the second series of the week. The second series of the week with number 8 UC Santa Barbara playing at number 2 Hawaii. The two teams will also face each other on Saturday, and this is an interesting matchup. So Hawaii is 2-0 in the Big West Conference, and if you notice, my title is titled Hawaii 2-0, which if you get that reference, then good for you. But Hawaii's 2-0 to start off Big West Conference play, but you got to remember, UCSB has beaten some good teams. They've beaten Pepperdine. They took down UC Irvine just recently. They're 10-7. Their record isn't all that's cracked up to be. I know they have lost to BYU twice, but they still have some solid wins this year. They have some really good wins, and I think Big West Conference is going to really start to show what the Gauchos can do. But as for Hawaii, they can't afford to have a Long Beach State hangover because Santa Barbara beat them last year, albeit that was the match where they lost Christian Tatrisky. That wasn't the match they lost Christian Tatrisky, or was it? It was one of the matches. Yeah, it was. That was the match. That was the match that Hawaii lost lost Christian Tatrisky last year, because last year in the regular season finale, UCSB beat Hawaii in 3, and that was the match where Christian Tatrisky hurt his ankle, and unfortunately he was unable to come back the rest of the season, which sucked. But this is a new season, and Christian Tatrisky is back to his Christian Tatrisky self. So I think UCSB Hawaii is going to be a real good matchup. That's going to really test the Gauchos to see where they're at. And it's also going to be a good testament to see if Hawaii has the Long Beach State hangover. But we shall see what happens. So jumping to Saturday, we have a ranked-on-ranked matchup in the MIVA. We have number 20 Purdue Fort Wayne at number 11 Lindenwood. This is going to be an interesting matchup. So Lindenwood needs the win in order to stay toward the top of the MIVA standings, while Purdue Fort Wayne is trying to gain any sort of momentum whatsoever. In addition, Purdue Fort Wayne is hungry for some ranked-on-ranked wins, or ranked win in general. And then also on Saturday, in terms of the MIVA, you have number 7 Ball State at number 12 McKendree. This is another big test for Ball State. This is probably their biggest week of the season, and I say that quite a bit. But for the Cardinals, man, if there's ever a week they have to come up big in, it's this one. It's this week. Ball State is a good team, but McKendree is so scrappy, and it's so tough to win in Lebanon. As Ball State, they're really good, but you got to remember, McKendree is just so scrappy. And McKendree's gym, I've never been in their gym, but from what I've seen on live streams, McKendree does have one of those old school gyms, which I like. And it's such a tough place to win at in terms of winning a volleyball match. So Ball State is going to have its hands full in terms of facing McKendree, but we shall see what happens. So that is going to do it for those matchups right there. I don't think there's any other ranked on ranked matches. There's a Sunday match. No, there's not. Contrary to popular belief, UC San Diego, UC Irvine, that was actually supposed to be a Sunday match, but then they switched it over to Friday, which I think just makes a lot more sense. So there you have it right there. And if you're planning on going to the Bren Event Center on Sunday, well, then don't. Their match at the Bren, the UCSD UCI is going to be on a Friday, not a Sunday. So there you go. All right, but that is that right there for Week 13 preview of the NCAA men's volleyball season. Mikey Two Guns asked, "Who's your dark horse champion?" So, who's my dark horse to win the national championship? Probably USC or UC Irvine, just because I think between USC and UC Irvine, it's going to be one of those two teams that makes it to the Final Four. And whoever does make it, I think definitely has a good shot at winning it all. I'd have to lean toward USC just because they haven't been to the Final Four since 2012, which I think was the last time they made the national championship. But to answer your question, Mikey, it would probably be those two and then Pepperdine. So there you have it. Those are my dark horses to win the national championship in NCAA men's volleyball. And then Mikey also said he loved the volleyball coverage. Thanks, Mikey. I appreciate you. So that was that right there. I actually do want to see some of the other previous comments. I guess this is Chris Sleeman. He says he seems like a really good guy and a really good coach. So he's referring to Charlie Wade. He was referring to Charlie Wade, and Charlie Wade is indeed a really good guy and a really good coach. And then Freddie B also asks, Kings of the Beach, one of the greatest NES games ever. Yeah, even though we're talking about real life volleyball here, but I digress. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. And then Chris Lehman says, "Hey, Teran, I love seeing your interviews with Hawaii head coach Charlie Wade." Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. And that's what, that's what he was referring to before that. And then I already mentioned Larry's comment. There was one comment that Larry did mention, which I thought was pretty funny. So it was like right at the beginning. But he also mentions that breaking that 11-match losing streak at the Pyramid officially puts the Big West on notice. The Bows aren't. Oh, yeah. I already read this. But it's a pretty solid comment right there. And Larry did mention something funny. He also mentioned that sweeping them and taking 2 matches in one trip for the first time since 2015 is legendary. Yeah, it really was. And then here's the funny one. He says, T-Rod's mad at LBSU after that match. All right, so he is making a reference to that just because I am a Long Beach State alum. So when it comes to things like that, I don't really put my bias toward that. I mean, would I be happy if Long Beach State had I just want to see good volleyball. I mean, I would rather see good volleyball than to see my alma mater win. I mean, is that saying something? Is that saying quite a bit? Yes. But at the same time, it's just that I would rather see really good volleyball than see my teams, win or lose. So, I mean, I just wanted to. I was a little disappointed in that second match just because Long Beach hadn't been swept on their home floor in almost 10 years. And the fact that Hawaii did that just kind of shows that a lot of people are throwing out that that Long Beach is nowhere near as good without Moni Nikolov? I don't think so. I mean, Hawaii's a good team. There's a reason why I was so high on Hawaii going into the season. I would have put Hawaii as the number one team to finish in terms of the Big West Conference regular season standings and not Long Beach. And I say that with all due respect to Long Beach, but Hawaii returns a majority of their starters. Long Beach did have some guys on their team, but replacing Moni Nikolov just like that, I know that snap was pretty soft, is just, it's still, you just can't replace Moni Nikolov overnight. And I just think that Hawaii, just with all the returning starters, I think they just had that edge to them. So again, I say that with all due respect to Long Beach State. Like Hawaii just, they proved my theory right, that Hawaii is the favorite to win the Big West Conference. So there you go. And then, oh yeah, I already read that comment from Larry B. But yeah, that was pretty funny. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we've got a little NCAA beach volleyball to talk about. We've got some MLV to discuss. We have some League One volleyball to discuss. We've got a little bit of JUCO and high school boys volleyball to discuss as well. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernan.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing, from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Welcome back to the second half of Set Point here on IS Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows on our station. We would greatly appreciate it. With that being said, let's jump on into some NCAA beach volleyball. So the AVCA Collegiate Beach Volleyball poll came out for today. So like I said, I normally do Set Point on Mondays as opposed to like Tuesdays. Today was kind of an exception, or this week was kind of an exception, because I had a job I needed to do on Monday or yesterday at 5:30 p.m. So I just said, you know what, might as well just push the show back to Tuesday. So there we have it. So as for the AVCA Collegiate Beach Volleyball poll, so Florida State's down. So notable things to note: USC jumped up 2 spots, which is good. Florida State's now in the top 5, which is great. Long Beach State is back in the top 10, which is good for them. You also have, I messed up big time. I forgot to put Arizona State. Shame on me. So Arizona State remember when Arizona State was really good? And they were the last undefeated team in the poll. Well, now they've kind of gone the other direction. So Arizona State's now number 11. Hawaii's still tied for number 13, but this time they're tied with GCU, who had the biggest jump of the week. Nobody dropped out, and there you have it. That's pretty much all of the poll. Nothing really too notable about that when it comes to the beach volleyball poll. So as for the NCAA Beach Week 5 recap, so some notable matchups that happened. There was the Big West Challenge, where all the Big West teams had a little bit of a round robin, faced off against one another. Hawaii took down Sac State, no surprise there. South Carolina took down UAB, no surprise there. Arizona State took down Georgia 4-1, no surprise there. Long Beach State took down Sac State, no surprise there. Arizona State took down Tarleton State, no surprise there. So that was pretty much that was on the 20th. So that was on a Friday. So that was pretty much the appetizer for some of for the beach volleyball matches. So here's where we got the main course. Here's where we got some good matches. We got Long Beach State taking down Hawaii 4-1, which was really good if you ask me. That's a very good win for Long Beach State, just because Hawaii, even though it doesn't show in their record, the Bows are actually pretty darn good. Remember, they took down UCLA on the first day of the NCAA beach volleyball season. So for Long Beach State to do that, it shows that the beach is still up there in terms of the Big West Conference talent. Then you had LMU taking down Concordia Irvine in straight sets. Nothing too surprising there. Arizona took down Texas El Paso 4-1. No surprise there. And then we're still on Friday's matchups, by the way. South Carolina took down Northern Alabama. Nothing surprising there. Stetson outlasted Florida in a 3-2 barn burner, which was a very good win for the Hatters. Florida State took down Cal in a barn burner. That's a good win right there for the Noles, just because that was a top 10 matchup, and Florida State passed that with flying colors. Fairly good flying colors. Also got to remember that Florida State was coming off of 2 big wins over TCU and USC. So the fact that they were able to pull off that win was pretty darn spectacular. Then you had Texas sweeping Arizona State. Remember when I said that Arizona State's going the wrong way? Well, this is the reason why. But Texas is good, though. Poor Boise State. They lost 2 3-2 matches to Cal and Georgia State. It is what it is. Boise State. And the thing about Boise State is that they're in the Big 12. Yeah, for beach volleyball, they're in the Big 12. And what's tough about it is that Florida State's in that conference. So they're going to have their hands full. Stetson took down FAU in a 3-2 barn burner. That was a good win. Florida State took down GCU, which was another good win. Texas swept LSU, which was a very impressive win. And staying on Friday's matches, we had GCU pulling off the upset against LSU. Very good win right there for the Lopes. FIU took down Jacksonville. No surprise there. Stetson took down St. Leo. No surprise there. Long Beach State took down North CSUN in a 3-2 battle. So I imagine that matchup was probably decided well beforehand. The first 3 pairs, Long Beach wound up winning it, and then For pairs 4 and 5, CSUN wound up winning the 4s. They wound up winning the 4s pair in 3, and then the 5s went to CSUN in a sweep. So basically, Long Beach State had clinched the duel before anything crazy happened. So I'm not trying to take anything away from CSUN. I'm glad they made it a little close, or they made the score respectable, but this was pretty much all Long Beach State for the most part. So not trying to say anything mean about CSUN, but it is what it is. It happens. So moving on, we had LMU taking out Pepperdine 4-1. Not surprising there. That's pretty much that for those little matchups. Yeah, and now we're on Saturday's matchups, by the way. Cal Poly swept UC Davis, no surprise there. Long Beach State swept UC Davis, no surprise there. St. Mary's is having a quiet, good season. It's not being like overly flashy, but St. Mary's is having a decent season in terms of the West Coast Conference. Now, will they be able to take down LMU? I don't think so, but at least they're having some sort of success this season. I think Taylor Crabb is their head coach, so you have that right there. They have that going for them. Arizona took down Missouri State 4-1. FIU took down Sam Houston State 5-0. There's that little bit of There's those bit of matchups right there. Cal Poly took down Hawaii 4-1, which was a very good win right there. I mean, considering Hawaii has improved with I wouldn't say their new head coach. I mean, he's new, but this is his second rodeo with the Bows. So I think Cal Poly slow. They handled business. They handled business just because they're a top 5 team, or a top 3 team for that matter. Speaking of the Bows, they bounced back against Cal State Bakersfield. Cal Poly took down CSUN. Still on Saturday's matches, by the way. LMU took down Tulane. LSU outlasted Arizona State 3-2, which was a very good win. Texas took down Grand Canyon 3-2, which was very good. Florida State took down Arizona State in the battle of the two quote-unquote Big 12 teams. 4-1. Like I said, Florida State is Big 12 in beach volleyball. You had Grand Canyon taking down Georgia State 5-0. FAU took down St. Louis 5-0. LSU took down Boise State 4-1. Florida State took down Boise State 3-2. I mean, the talent's there when it comes to Boise State. Unfortunately, Boise State's just catching too many bad breaks, if you ask me. So yeah, that right there. I'm seeing some Nebraska results. That's pretty cool, but not anything too out of the ordinary. Washington beat St. Mary's. See what I mean? I mean, St. Mary's is having a good season in terms of the West Coast Conference, but when it comes to like facing legit opponents, not all that great. FIU took down Palm Beach State. So you had that matchup. So you had that right there. And then also working our way through the Saturday matches. Nothing too special on that page. Nothing too special there. Washington took down Pacific 5-0. That's not too surprising there. And then you had Hawaii took down UC Davis 4-1. Hawaii took down CSUN 4-1. We're finally on Sunday's matches. We had Cal Poly sweeping Sac State. Not too surprising right there. No offense to Sac State, obviously. Cal Poly also swept Bakersfield. Long Beach State also swept Bakersfield. And then in the battle of the unbeatens in terms of the Big West Challenge, you had Cal Poly sweeping Long Beach State. Now, this really impressed me. I was really impressed with how Cal Poly just swept Long Beach State. They left no crumbs behind. That is what we call eating and not leaving anything behind. Very good win right there for the Mustangs. And then Washington also took down Pacific 5-0, and then St. Mary's 3-2, which was another solid showing from St. Mary's, but still nothing too overly great. So there you have it right there. That's pretty much the Week 5 recap in terms of notable matches. So Week 6 is going to bring a lot of high intense matches. USC is going to be back in action after having a week off. They had their spring break. Texas is going to be hosting I wouldn't say tournament, but a little bit of a round robin. It's the Austin Invitational, which is going to have teams like, I think, LSU and Long Beach State as well. So you got a lot of good teams happening. And then Hawaii, another big thing is that UCLA, They have not lost a home match since it's been a minute since UCLA has lost a home duel. So keep that in mind right there. So you have that right there, and that's pretty much good for the NCAA beach volleyball side of things. So let's jump to the MLV. So, all right, the MLV has been rather interesting as of late. I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing in terms of the MLV. I think we're seeing some good results, and we're also toward the end of the regular season. So, week 11 started off on. On Wednesday of last week. Last week was the 18th. So 18th. Okay, MLV, can you please start your weeks on Thursday instead of Wednesday? So yeah, it did start on Wednesday with the Dallas Pulse taking on the Grand Rapids Rise at Van Andel Arena. In the end, the Pulse took down the Rise in 4 sets, which was not too surprising if you ask me, just because, well, let's be honest. This is the Pulse, this is the Pulse we're talking about. This might be one of the better. This might be the best expansion team I've seen in a minute since the Vegas Golden Knights. But yeah, Dallas did have a little bit of a scare in the second set. They did need overtime and then some, but they were able to hold off Grand Rapids, and eventually they wound up winning the match in 4. So that's a nice little road win right there for Dallas, as the Pulse were led by Sophia Actually, no, they were led by Mimi Collier, who had 24 kills and 16 digs. They also had 20 kills from Sofia Maldonado Diaz, and Kaylee Cox added 12 kills and 15 digs. Grand Rapids was led by Paige Briggs Romine, who had 16 digs. You also had Carly Snyder with 13 kills and 12 digs. And Paige Briggs Romine also had 13 digs to go along with those 16 kills, if I didn't mention that already. So another good win for Dallas, as they are right on the coattails of the Indy Ignite. I think that is maybe the second best team in the conference. If they can get past the Omaha Supernovas, then that could be quite something. So on Thursday, if that didn't really start the week 11 week, then Thursday officially started it, as we had the Atlanta Vibe hosting the Orlando Valkyries. And you know what I'm about to say. The Orlando Valkyries need Hannah Maddox and Brittany Abercrombie, as the Atlanta Vibe swept the Valkyries 25-22, 25-16, and 25-20. The Vibe were led by Leah Edmond, who had 17 kills and 10 digs. Aiko Jones had 14 kills and 12 digs. And then Taylor Smith added 11 kills, as the Vibe hit 368, which was really good, while holding Orlando to only a hitting percentage of 204. The Valkyries were led by Charity Looper, who had 11 kills. Nia Scheim added 9 kills. You already know what I'm about to say. Not having Brittany Abercrombie and Hannah Maddox really hurt this team. And I don't know what their timetable is in terms of returning in terms of the season, but they really need them. Champu had 24 assists to go along with 9 digs, so obviously that's something to note right there, just because she's one of the more popular players in the MLV. Then also on Thursday, we had the second of the doubleheader. We had the Indy Ignite taking down the Columbus Fury in 4. Long story short, this was the battle of the best team in the league versus the worst team in the league. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, it's a miracle Columbus actually took a set off of Indy, but that could have probably been because the Ignite sat their starters. But anyway, Indy was led by Anna DeBeer, who had 10 kills and 12 digs. They also got 9 kills from Kayla Lund. As a team, Indy only hit 138, so it wasn't really their best night offensively, but they also held Columbus to only a hitting percentage of 123. As the Fury were led by Megan Courtney Lesh, who had 11 kills. They also got 7 kills from Raina Terry, Jalen Hodge, and Akasha Anderson. But the Fury still cannot. They're pretty much the bottom dweller team of the MLV, sadly. Then on Friday, we had the Omaha Supernovas taking on the Grand Rapids Rise, and unlike their previous meeting, the Supernovas now are on a. They now have found their trajectory. And even though that first set was what was kind of a twisty road, Omaha was able to take that first set and they used it as a springboard to eventually take the match in 3 sets, which, look, Omaha is back, baby. There's no other way of saying it. Emily Londot led the way with 17 kills, and she also had 15 digs as well, which was very good. They also got 10 kills from Brooke Nunneveller as Omaha hit 262, which wasn't bad. And Grand Rapids was held to only a hitting percentage of 183. Also, Elena Ogilvie, she had 20 digs. I think she had like some sort of like milestone that she reached, but I can't really fully confirm that. But anyway, Morgan Hens, the former libero for the Omaha Supernovas, she had 9 digs. I thought Omaha did a good job of keeping the ball away from her, as the Rise were led by Carly Snyder, who had 12 kills, while Paige Briggs-Romine added 10 kills and 15 digs. So don't look now, but Omaha has won 3 straight matches. Albeit 2 of the opponents were kind of the worst 2 teams in the league, but still, wins are wins, especially in a competitive MLV standings where one bad weekend can cost you a possible playoff spot. Case in point, you had the San Diego Mojo playing at the Dallas Pulse, where the Pulse took down the San Diego Mojo in 4. By the way, they play on Victory Network, which, fun fact, that actually is televised. That actually televises Dallas Cowboys games, as well as Texas Rangers games and Dallas Mavericks games, or anything in the DFW area. But I digress. Anyway, Dallas was led by Sofia Maldonado Diaz, for real this time. She had 18 kills. You had Mimi Collier with 17 kills, Kaylee Cox with 15 kills. You had Tristan Savage with 9 kills. As a team, Dallas hit 309, which was very good, while holding San Diego to only a hitting percentage of 168, as the Mojo were led by Jovana Brakocevic. She had 10 kills. Maya Tabron had 7 kills, and then 9 kills went to Allison Jacobs, but unfortunately it was just not enough. The Mojo are going the wrong way. They remember when I was saying that the Mojo are starting to look like a potential playoff team? They're now going the wrong way. I knew this was coming. I knew we shouldn't have trusted the San Diego Mojo. And then the last match of Week 11, and this is actually the perfect match to close off Week 11. Oh, man. Remember when I kept telling you all that Columbus Fury was the bottom dweller of the MLV? Well, they hadn't won a home game all season, but that changed today. The Columbus Fury swept the Orlando Valkyries 25-22, 25-15, and 25-22. Oh, man. The Columbus Fury. If you're the Orlando Valkyries, you got to be kicking yourself if you lost to a team that had 0 home wins going into this match. As Raina Terry led the way with 14 kills, Akasha Anderson had 11 kills. As a team, man, Columbus hit 363 while holding Orlando to a hitting percentage of only 146. Like I said, this is where the Orlando Valkyries miss having Brittany Abercrombie. Brittany Abercrombie did actually play, but she had 5 kills. So Brittany Abercrombie actually did play. So welcome back, Brittany Abercrombie. Did Hannah Maddox play? Why is it not showing her? I'm seeing Hannah Pukas, but not Hannah Maddox. So it looks like she didn't play. But Brittany Abercrombie's back in the lineup, so it must have been like a wait-and-see thing. But that's huge right there. That is big that the Orlando Valkyries have Brittany Abercrombie back into the lineup. What is not big, however, is losing this matchup to the likes of a team that had 0 home wins going into this matchup. That's really sad, if you ask me. So there we go. That's basically it for Week 11 of the MLV season. So looking at the standings, the Indy Ignite are still 15-3. They're in first place. The Dallas Pulse are 14-5. The Omaha Supernovas are 10-9. They're in third place. The Atlanta Vibe currently occupy the 4th spot as they are 8-9, courtesy of Orlando's loss. The Valkyries are 9-11. The San Diego Mojo are 7-10. The Grand Rapids Rise are 6-12, and then the Columbus Fury are 4-14 after their lone home win today. I still can't believe the Columbus Fury actually wound up beating the Orlando Valkyries. But the good sign is for Orlando is that Brittany Abercrombie is back in the lineup. Now, if they can get Hannah Maddox back in the lineup too, then that's big as well. But having Abercrombie back by herself is massive just because, for starters, she was the league's MVP last year. But without her, the Valkyries just don't seem like the same. So it's little baby steps to get Brittany Abercrombie back into the lineup. All right, so I'm guessing tomorrow starts week 12 of the MLV season. So we have a doubleheader for week 12 in terms of Wednesday's matches. We have the Indy Ignite at the Grand Rapids Rise. So Indy has been taking care of business as of late. As long as Indy doesn't get too big for their britches and they don't underestimate the Grand Rapids Rise, I think they should be fine. Now, this matchup is kind of has a little bit more playoff implications. You have the Omaha Supernovas playing at the San Diego Mojo. So I want to say the series, isn't this like the last time they'll be meeting? And I thought these teams had already met 4 times already, but I guess that was just 3 times. I want to say Omaha leads the series 2-1 this year. But either way, San Diego needs to get up off the mat ASAP. They need to get back into the win column. Otherwise, their hopes of making the playoffs will go down the toilet. Meanwhile, for the Supernovas, they've won 3 straight, and now they appear to be trying to control their own destiny. And I think that's massive for the Supernovas because, remember, they had lost 7 straight matches and were 2 games under 500, which hadn't been a thing since they started the formerly known as PVF season 0-1 against the Atlanta Vibe. But yeah, Omaha Supernovas San Diego Mojo is going to have a lot of implications in terms of playoffs. Then Thursday, we have the Atlanta Vibe at Dallas Pulse. This also can be playoff implications as well for the Vibe, just because the Pulse need the win in order to stay toward the top of the MLV standings with Indy. But the Vibe need the win in order to stay in that 4th spot, because only the top 4 teams advance to the playoffs. And for Atlanta, they're basically clinging on to that finals playoff spot. And then also on Saturday is the MLV All-Star match, which is going to be played at Edition Financial Arena, that's the Edition Financial Arena. That's in Orlando. Yeah, that's in Orlando. So yeah, I'm not necessarily the best when it comes to remembering these names, especially not outside of California, but I digress. But yeah, the MLV All-Star match is Team Lanier taking on Team Meskey. So that's Beth Lanier, the former Utah coach before she retired. She's going to be coaching her team, her All-Star team. And then Dan Meskey, the Louisville coach, he'll be coaching his team in the MLV All-Star match. That is surprisingly a 9 a.m. Pacific start time, which I'm not entirely certain that's a good idea. I think that should have been like a 2 p.m. Pacific start time, but that probably would have been that's 5 p.m. over there. So I get it. You want to have the match as early as possible, but still. But I mean, it should be a good All-Star match. It's going to be on Paramount Plus and CBS, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. But for this matchup, I think it's obviously an All-Star match. It's obviously to have fun. I just wish there were like other All-Star events, like maybe a serving target match, which I think would be a very fun match. Kind of like the slam dunk contest, or how many serves can you make consecutively, or how many serves can you make consecutively, and if you make it in a certain spot, you get certain points. But then if you miss one, it's like it's like a minus a point or something like that. Either way, I would like to see more all-star festivities. I'm sure we're probably going to see like meet and greets and like autograph sessions. So yeah, there you go. By the way, the following week, week 13 of the MLV season, I'm just now looking at this right now. So the Atlanta Vibe will be hosting the Omaha Supernovas at the Georgia State Convocation Center. So that's interesting. So it's not going to be held at Gas South Arena. So interesting. So there you have it right there. But that's that for the MLV recap and preview. So now let's jump to League One volleyball, where we have our first team that has clinched a spot in the playoffs. And that just so happens to be, can we get a drum roll, please? The Houston. So League One volleyball. So LOVB Houston was able to clinch the first playoff spot. So they're on the road to Louisville/Los Angeles. So recapping week 11, it all started on Wednesday where Atlanta swept Nebraska. The sets were all close, though. Every set was decided by 3 or less points. So I can't really fault Nebraska for losing this. But, man, that could have been a big win. You're about to see why that could have been such a massive win for Nebraska. But thankfully for Nebraska, they were able to take down Austin in 4. I think Nebraska was finally done with losing to LOVB Austin. So, as we all know, Nebraska volleyball fans do not like any Austin teams by any means, whether it's the University of Austin, Texas, or University of Texas in Austin, or anything of that sort. So, and this was, remember, last year, this was a rematch of last year's League One volleyball championship match where Austin swept Nebraska, and Nebraska had lost 2 straight to Austin this year. So the fact that Nebraska finally got its lick back against Austin was big time right there. And what else was big time was Atlanta sweeping LOVB Salt Lake, which was even more big just because that gets them closer to the playoffs, and it also gets them closer in terms of the standings as well, just because going into this week, Atlanta and Salt Lake both have the same record at 9-7. So that's a massive win right there for Atlanta. And then that was on Saturday. And then the other Saturday match was Madison taking down Houston. So the interesting thing is that Madison wound up beating Houston, but even though Houston wound up losing that matchup, they still clinched a playoff spot. So it's not a matter of if LOVB Houston will be going to the playoffs. It's a matter of who they're going to play and what's going to happen when it comes to their roster. So it's still a good win for Madison, that's for sure, because it gives them some sort of hope in terms of the playoffs, because going into this week, Madison is 6-10. They're a half a game back of Austin, which, God, Austin has kind of gone the wrong way. And they're also 1 game back of Nebraska as well. So one bad week definitely can turn your season into a disaster. So now let's move on to the Week 12 preview. You have, starting tomorrow, LOVB Salt Lake at LOVB Houston. This will be played at Fort Bend County Epicenter. So a lot of unique new places being played at in terms of like the League One volleyball matches. But Salt Lake needs a win in the worst way. I know Houston needs to get back on track as well, but Salt Lake has lost 3 of its last 4. And they need to get back into the playoff hunt. Meanwhile, for Houston, they're probably trying to lock up the number 1 seed. So lots of playoff implications right here. And also on Wednesday, we actually have a rescheduled match. So we have LOVB Nebraska at LOVB Atlanta at OTE Arena. So this was rescheduled from January 25th because of the harsh weather conditions that happened on that week of January 25th. So Atlanta just swept Nebraska, but all those sets were close, like I said. So this time around, I expect Nebraska to come in with a little bit more fire in their bellies just because they now have momentum. I mean, there was once a point where Nebraska lost like quite a bit of matches in a row, and they even lost to the worst team in the league in Madison. But then they were able to take down Houston, and then they just went from there. So now LOVB Nebraska is just continuing their winning way. They just got to continue their winning ways. following the win over Austin. Then Thursday, you have Madison at Austin. Man, if there's ever a match that Austin needs to win, it's this one. They've lost 4+ straight. Meanwhile, for Madison, a win here could definitely go a long way for Madison. So they got to win this one. This is must win for both of these teams. And then on jumping to Saturday, we have LOVB Salt Lake at LOVB Nebraska at Baxter Arena. This will be another interesting matchup. So both these teams are in the playoff hunt. Salt Lake is 3rd, while Nebraska is 4th. Again, one loss could push you further and further back in the standings. This is super important for LOVB Nebraska. They can't afford another loss. They know that they pretty much all their matches are going to start to be must-wins at this point, which can be said for everyone. And then closing off Week 12, you've got LOVB Madison at LOVB Atlanta. This will be played at Georgia Tech McCanish Pavilion. So this will be played at Georgia Tech. So that's really cool that they're not just playing their matches at certain places or like the same old place over and over again. I like how they're now starting to mix things up a bit. So we actually have some breaking news here. So in terms of League One volleyball, so LOVB, obviously, that's actually going to do it for Week 12 preview. So, but we actually have some breaking news. So the LOVB playoffs will be played at Freedom Hall in Louisville in Week 14. So that's actually not too far away from here. That's actually very close. Holy crud. And that's pretty cool if you ask me. So the playoffs start on April 10th. And I think that's the first wave. And then you've got it's like a 3-day playoffs. And I'm not entirely sure of the format. All I just know is that the first match of the April 10th and the second match but on April 10th will be 45 minutes in between. Then Saturday, there's going to be another match, which I imagine this is going to be like a double elimination. I imagine it's going to be double elimination. And then the April 11th match is going to be on ESPN2. And then there's going to be a match on April 12th. It's going to be held at Freedom Hall. Well, obviously it's going to be held at Freedom Hall, but yeah, there's going to be a match on Sunday, April 12th as well. But now we finally know where the League One Volleyball Championship is going to be held. So the League One Volleyball Championship is going to be held at I'm putting y'all in suspense. It's going to be held at the LBS Financial Credit Union Pyramid in Long Beach. Translation, it's going to be held at Long Beach State, my alma mater, which I think is going to be really cool. But that kind of contradicts something. They said the League One Volleyball Championship was going to be held in Los Angeles. Long Beach is not Los Angeles. Will you all start getting your geographical cities correct? Long Beach is not Los Angeles. It's not Orange County. It's just Long Beach. It's smack dab in the middle of Los Angeles County and Orange County. Please stop referring to Long Beach as LA. So how dare you, League One Volleyball, for lying to us, saying that the LOVB Championship was going to be held in Los Angeles, but now it's going to be held in Long Beach. But that's really cool. It's going to be held at the LBS Financial Credit Union Pyramid. But here's the thing about that. That doesn't really hold a lot of capacity. It's like, that only holds like, what? I imagine like, what? Doesn't that like hold 4,000-ish? I mean, it was just sold out recently. So, and also, I imagine this means that Long Beach isn't going to be playing that week, because I thought Long Beach played that week. I know they have a match, but I'm guessing their match is going to be on a Friday and not a Saturday. Their home match at the very least. But yeah, looking at their schedule, that's an interesting that's an interesting place to have their to have the final. So looking back at the League One Volleyball Championship, that's on April 16th and April 18th. So a Thursday and a Saturday. So Long Beach State plays their home match on April 17th, which is going to be their senior night when they play UC Irvine. And then on Saturday, they're going to be at UC Irvine, which, God, why did LOVB have to have their final on a freaking Saturday? Why couldn't they have had it on Sunday? Anyway, back to League One volleyball. Okay, so I guess it kind of works out. That just means, okay, and then we have an official start time. So 5 p.m. 5 p.m. is the official start time for both matches of the League One Volleyball Championship. This is going to be really fun, and I really got to get me a credential, no matter what happens. But anyway, that's going to do it. I wonder if my Long Beach State media credential would still suffice. I doubt it, though, just because it's not a Long Beach State event, but I digress. Anyway, that's going to do it for League One volleyball. So I actually do want to talk a little high school boys volleyball. So Mira Costa, last year's national champion, won CIF Southern section in Division I, won CIF State in Division I. They took on Loyola in the battle of the number 1 versus number 2 team. And let me just tell you, Mira Costa Loyola in boys volleyball is a bloodbath. It might be one of the best high school boys rivalries out there in terms of the nation. Mira Costa wound up reverse sweeping Loyola 14-25, 25-17, 25-22, 25-22, and 15-11. And UCLA commit Mateo Furbringer had 37 kills. And then Wyatt Davis, I think, had and Wyatt Davis, the UCSB commit, he had 11 kills to go along with 7 blocks. And then Jake Newman, I think he had like 52 assists and 2 service aces. It was a massive win for Mira Costa. And man, 37 kills from Mateo Furbringer. He is on a whole different level. He arguably is, he probably is the best player in the class of 2027. Like, Mateo Furbringer is just a man in a 16-year-old body. And that's no disrespect to him. He is a man amongst teenagers. But yeah, that was a massive win right there for Mira Costa. God, that's such a tough loss for Loyola. But you can never, ever, 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 ever doubt Mira Costa when down 0-2. I've seen a lot of reverse sweeps in my time when it comes to Mira Costa boys volleyball. They've swept a lot of good teams. They swept Loyola. They swept Mater Dei, Newport Harbor my freshman year in the CIF finals. Sure, Newport fans would rather forget about that match. But yeah, Mira Costa is the real deal. It's really interesting just because Mira Costa was supposed to kind of be on a little bit of a rebuild after they lost so much to graduation, like Grayson Bradford, Thatcher Fallbush, Cooper Keene, Alex Hines, and Andrew Chapin. But they've really had some of their other guys step up, like Teddy Mandelbaum, Justin Warner, the libero. Mateo Furbringer is still Mateo Furbringer, Wyatt Davis, so on and so forth. So you have that so there was that matchup right there in terms of like high school boys volleyball. I don't want to go too deep on this because we're not above 90 minutes when it comes to the show. But also in terms of 3C2A men's volleyball, Orange Coast took down Golden West in the battle of unbeatens on the road in 4. Victor Loyola, who is a former Mira Costa standout and was a hopeful to be at Long Beach State, but unfortunately, things kind of went a little south for him, but he's back on track. He had 15 kills in the win for OCC. And then for Ben Bray, a GCU bounce back, just because, well, we already know what happened with GCU. He had 14 kills for the Pirates, which was a massive. Those two are really good. Like, Victor Loyola and Ben Bray might be the best outside hitter duo in terms of the 3C2A. So it's a tough loss for Golden West. Offensively, it just wasn't their night. They did not have one player in terms of double-digit kills. I think their kill leader was Gino Vigiano and AJ Kiebrick. So both had 7 kills, which isn't really going to win you a whole lot of matches. Like at first, it looked like OCC was gifting too many errors to Golden West, but thankfully for Orange Coast, they were able to turn the tide and eventually wound up winning the match. So the rematch is set for April 10th at Orange Coast College. And I think that's a Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So mark your calendar for March 10th. It's going to be a fun barn burner match. And actually, or was it 9th? I think it's, did I say March 10th? I meant April 10th. April 10th is the rematch between Golden West and Orange Coast. It's going to be a barn burner, and it's probably going to be the most hyped JUCO men's volleyball match you'll ever see. But that'll do it for that little bit of news right there. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. For everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action. You will probably see me not at a volleyball match this week, just because everything is pretty much on the road, and I'm probably going to be busy as well. So that said, have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, and I will see you at the next match. Have a great week, everybody. Peace.
Yeah.